Hello everybody, my name is Alun Lloyd and looking after the transportation aspects of the work that Canada is doing investigating the property. So I just wanted to do some high-level notes really about where Port Credit, the one Port Credit site itself sits from a transportation perspective, and some of the considerations that are important as we move forward any development planning or change of use for the property. The story starts sort of the highest level. Metrolinx, the agency that looks after a lot of the transit across the whole UTHA region, has designated a number of locations as mobility hubs, and what they've tried to do around those locations is they've said that those are places where you get a concentration of transit facilities centered around the GO line, and of course they're highly supportive of transit usage across the region. And so they're places where, development and sort of intensification is a good place to put them relative to solving the problems of the Greater Toronto area in general. Regional service, Port Credit itself is actually well served. You'll see this in this slide and the next one. Obviously the GO train is a great service to across Mississauga, the south end of Mississauga, but Port Credit in particular. Of course, you can not only get into Toronto, but you can go west. And it's a service that really is being emphasized with Metrolinx planning and GO Transit's planning. Local transit service now, so as we're starting to drift down to the lower levels of sort of more local, less regional travel, of course, Port Credit has quite a considerable concentration of local bus activity that is routing around to the GO station and around the centre area. What this does with the GO train is actually leads to a surprisingly high level of transit use for Port Credit. About 20-25% of the trips made in the weekday peak hours, so that's the morning and afternoon, people go to and from work, is done by some kind of transit, either GO or a local service, which in the Mississauga context is very good, and in fact actually most of Toronto it's a good level of transit. So you also see inherent in the way that people who live here, inherent in the way they live is the ability to travel and the predilection to travel by transit already. Okay, so the City of Mississauga, City of Brampton are obviously trying to enhance transit also. The Huron Ontario LRT project is a study that the EA was done as of 2 years ago, and they're undertaking design, their first sort of detailed design of what that facility is going to look like on the ground. The important thing from One Port Street, the property's perspective, is that of course the line doesn't just come down from Brampton and stop at the GO station. It actually continues down Huron Ontario and across Port Street. There's a terminus planned in the environmental assessment study right at the north edge of the Port Street property, which from a Canada Land's perspective is a wonderful opportunity to really enhance the connectivity of the project, or any project that happens on the property, to transit. How much better could it be to have a terminus like that of an LRT vehicle right at the doorstep of the property? So what that'll do, of course, is whatever happens on the property, you capture more people to a sort of a sustainable level of transportation as opposed to being in a car-orientated circumstance. Roads, just as we keep on talking about cars, Port Credit generally, I know there's people who use the roads and they're kind of fault when they're busy, but from a global perspective, good connectivity, KBWs are just to the north, and there's a number of good connections up to that highway. Obviously Lakeshore Road provides some connectivity across the waterfront as well. We have a local access question that we're going to sort of start to deal with the thinking around the property. Obviously Port Street is the only frontage that this site has onto a public road, and so that in of itself is a question and a challenge that the site needs to deal with in any future plans. But of course then how do you get to Lakeshore Road itself and Huron Ontario and those connections? And we all, you know this better than I do, but those connections need to be carefully looked at as you go forward in terms of any development planning on the Port Street property. Parking is something that we're going to spend a lot of time looking at, be very careful around this. On the site today there's a number of parking facilities, there are parking facilities, it's basically a bunch of asphalt by and large. But it also provides parking for this hotel. There's public parking for the marina. There's obviously sort of secure parking for the marina that's behind the fence that's just across the road. You have to car to get in. Those are sort of aspects of the current parking circumstance. Of course, anything that happens will need some parking. And we're going to look at this very carefully to make sure we get the right number of parking spaces in the right places, but also look at opportunities that may actually benefit more credit generally. The thing about marinas is they need a lot of parking, but they only need parking for certain times of the year. And so there may be an opportunity for a sharing of a facility in the balance of the year, at times when the marinas are not as busy as other times, where that can be used for other purposes. So this is we're trying to make the best use, most efficient use of those type of facilities. And my last sort of slide focuses on the bicycles and pedestrian side of the game. This property doesn't do a great job for the pedestrian realm, but it does provide an opportunity to complete and fix elements of the planned networks that Mississauga has in place across the waterfront. So the waterfront trail is a piece that wants to be continuous and can be continuous across this property without any change in the way that the northern end of that property works from a cycling perspective, and that's also pedestrian linkages. What, of course, is changing the edge of the property could also offer is that public access to the water's edge in a way that you see elsewhere in other great waterfronts, and it's another way that this site can give back to that kind of that public amenity and desire for credit in the way it faces onto the lake. So with that,